Vernomatic Productions.
I was a fan of David's already when he joined the Purple. I mean, the guy was only 23 or 24 or something, and he had that voice. What? If a mention on where's this guy coming from, you know?
Are you ready? Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold. We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno, and direct from New Jersey, Metal Walt.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, and especially staying healthy. Hey, Metal Walt and I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to spend with us. We have another great conversation lined up tonight, so let's get into this. This week, Metal Walt sits down with legendary guitarist Adrian Vandenberg to look back on one of the rock's most unforgettable eras, Whitesnake in the 80s. Hear what first impressed Adrian about a young David Coverdale, why he knew Coverdale was destined to become one of rock's greatest voices, find out why Adrian turned down Coverdale's invitations to join Whitesnake, and what finally convinced Adrian to join up with Coverdale and the Whitesnake guys when he did. He also shares the story behind the Slip of the Tongue era, the injury that kept him from recording that album, and how Steve Vai became part of the picture. Plus, hear why overwhelming fan demand has brought back his My Whitesnake Years tour to the U.S. for another run this summer and fall. All right, all that and more. Let's get into it. Metal Walt, Adrian Vandenberg, talking Whitesnake. I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
So, Adrian, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC. Great to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's great to be in a show called Metal Mayhem. You know, you can't go wrong.
Yes, exactly. So, listen, I'm American. I'm from New Jersey. And for us American fans, you know, our introduction to you came in all those iconic Whitesnake videos from 87, 88, Still the Night, you know, Is This Love? And the list goes on and on. But your story to joining one of the biggest rock bands in the world is fascinating, coming from Holland. So maybe tell us a little bit about your early relationship with David Coverdale and how it kind of landed you in the band.
Well, I was a fan of David's already when he joined the Purple. I mean, the guy was only 23 or 24 or something, and he had that voice. What? You know, the live video of the song, the Deep Purple song Burn. It blew me away. And at the time, of course, I didn't see the video, but I heard like bootleg records and stuff. I thought, man, where's this guy coming from, you know? So I've always been a fan. And after Deep Purple, when he started Whitesnake in the early version, and that must have been around probably 77 or something, 78, I just I stayed a fan, and I got all those records and stuff. And so what happened in 1982, I got an invitation to come see Whitesnake playing in Holland. And I thought, why am I getting an invitation? I'm a fan. I would have gone anyway, you know. So the invitation apparently came by his tour manager. And he picked me out of the crowd and he said, you know, David would like to see you after the show. I said, oh, great, you know. So I got invited to the hotel where they were staying, and then he was holding court in the hotel bar, of course. And I had a beautiful girlfriend with me, and he started hitting on my girlfriend right away, you know. He has a reputation on that in that area. So he said, you know, the first Vandenberg album just came out, and he actually used it in a song because people may know there was a song on the first Vandenberg album called "Wait Till the Shit Hits the Fan," which was having trouble getting played on the rock station at the time, even though everybody uses that word, you know. But so actually, David already during the show, to my surprise, he said, "And next song, in the words of Adrian Vandenberg, the shit is going to hit the fan." I thought, oh man, that's quite a interesting introduction. So yeah, when we met him at the hotel bar, and after he realized hitting on my girlfriend didn't get him anywhere because we were madly in love at the time. Um, yeah, he said, are you happy in your band? And, would you consider joining Whitesnake? I said, well, man, I would love to. Excuse me. There's a walnut that I just ate. I just signed a record deal with Atlantic Records for a minimum of 3 albums. So I can't, man. It just, I would love to, but I can't. So, and also I thought it would be good to mark myself first, because in those days, Whitesnake was already starting to be a revolving door of band members. And I thought it probably makes more sense when I made a little bit more of a mark myself. And then when eventually I might join Whitesnake, and then it will make more sense. So then he invited me to join Whitesnake a number of times. For instance, during the recording of Slide It In, when he was recording in Munich, Germany. And but still, I just signed this deal with Atlantic, and I was working on the second album in Jimmy Page's studio again, just like the first one. So I couldn't do it again. The timing kept staying awkward, if not to say very bad. And eventually, at the end of 1986, that's when I got a call from John Kolodner, the legendary A&R manager for Geffen, who had his finger in the porridge of every band, from Aerosmith to Bon Jovi to Guns N' Roses, you name it. And I got an invitation from John Kolodner to come to LA to form a new lineup for Vandenberg with top-class American musicians. I thought, well, okay, I just got rid of my record company contract. I thought, well, this could be an interesting thing, So I flew over. And the first thing John Kolodner said, well, I haven't been completely honest with you. I have 2 propositions for you. And the second one would be, I would really like you to join Whitesnake. And while you're here, work on the guitar arrangement for Here We Go Again, plus play a signature Vandenberg style solo on it. That's exactly what he said. So I thought, oh man, this is going to be an interesting thing to think about. And I said, well, I need a day to think about it, because I need to, basically sack the other guys in Vandenberg, and either start a new lineup for Vandenberg in LA or join David. And I thought, man, whatever we do, I'm never going to find a vocalist of David caliber,
Right.
So it was not a difficult decision, but I got into the studio, recorded those guitar parts, plus a solo for Here We Go Again. And the rest is history, because nobody could have predicted that the album would take off like a rocket, You were mentioning those videos, man. They were embarrassingly often on MTV at the time. You couldn't put the TV on in your hotel room, and bam, one of the videos was on, So, yeah, it was an amazing period.
Just quickly, Adrian, tell me, I know you came in and you started playing the guitar parts, but John Sykes obviously wrote the album with David Coverdale, but you were sort of the guy that took them to the world on the stages. So, what was it like stepping into this band that had become like this global phenomenon? And then in the States especially, that 87 tour was massive. You guys opened for Motley Crue on the Girls tour. And then, within a year or two, you guys became your own headlining act. So what was that whole thing like for you personally?
Well, actually, what the funny thing was, we opened up for Motley Crue, and it only lasted about 2 months, because the album and Here We Go Again both shot at #1. And Motley Crue was not very happy that we were outselling them with merchandise and all that stuff. So we had to start headlining, even though we didn't have a full set ready yet, because we were only prepared for 50 minutes, like an opening set. And so we started headlining like probably in 2 months or something. And then during sound checks, we had to rehearse songs to build up like a headline set. And at the first couple of shows, we just had to repeat a couple of the songs that we already played. I remember repeating Slide It In, because it was it had some radio play, from the Slide It In album. So and then we jammed on the ZZ Top song called Tosh, very well known. So man, it was such a dynamic period. And actually, as we all know, the 80s were a dynamic period for rock anyway. It was all rock on the airwaves on MTV when MTV was still about music and not about big Lamborghinis from rappers and showing off the big homes, So it was just great for a Dutch guy and anybody basically, but especially for a Dutch guy because I was unfamiliar with that, even though, I toured already with Kiss and Ozzy Osbourne before that, but still being in that band in that particular period where rock ruled the airways was amazing, and I can imagine how a lot of peers from other bands got carried away, started buying Lamborghinis and big homes in the Hollywood Hills, and then at some point it collapsed, and I didn't do that because I was brought up as a typical Dutch guy. I was always happy to go home for 1 or 2 weeks in between, tours or something. But also my parents also said, take it as it comes, don't go berserk yet because you never know when it's going to stop. So every day I pinched myself when we were staying in a relatively luxurious hotel with floppy white bathrobes and stuff, I thought, man, if it's over tomorrow, nobody's going to take those memories away from me. So here I am, like 30 years later or something. And 30 years later, it's 40 years later.
Yeah, 40 years.
Man, I must be 5 at the time.
In my home office here, Adrian, I have a lot of rock memorabilia, and I have this great picture, an old poster of Whitesnake, and I'm looking at it over here. But this is the era with John Sykes. It was Neil Murray. It was Cozy Powell, but you played in the version especially on tour with Tommy Aldridge and Rudy Sarzo, which I think most fans think of Whitesnake for the 4 of you there. So maybe tell us what it was like to play with those amazing musicians from your perspective.
It was amazing because the first tour we did in the States with Vandenberg in 1983 was as a special guest for Ozzy. And Tommy was in a band. Rudy wasn't anymore. He was rejoined Quiet Riot. But Tommy was playing with Ozzy, and I didn't miss one of his drum solos each and every night because I've always been a fan of Tommy's, and he's still kicking ass. The guy is amazing. And so when we started headlining in that same year after the Ozzy tour, in a couple of California shows, Rudy with Quiet Riot was supporting us. So I got to know Rudy, and I've always loved him and knew his career, but we never met personally, and we hit it off right away. And then shortly after that, just a couple of years after that, suddenly you're in the same band with Rudy and Tommy, and that was quite something, of course. And of course Vivian, great player, great guy, so good. And then, yeah, like we talked about before, it was such an explosive time. I mean, every day you were playing for 30, 40,000 people, sometimes over 100,000, like in a Cotton Bowl in Texas, the very first show. I'd never seen so many people. It looked like the complete population of Holland at me, and it was an extremely hard day. I'll never forget it. It was really exciting, but it was so hot, that it was hard to touch the frets on my guitar because the sun was like 5 PM, the sun was low. It was shining on stage directly. People were passing out, and sprayed with water to calm down, but we were on stage. We couldn't get sprayed, so it was, one of the most memorable shows I've ever done.
Wow, that's amazing. I was only 17 at that point in time, and I was just starting to, go to rock shows or heavy metal shows in New Jersey. But unfortunately, I never caught Whitesnake back then. But Adrian, I've always been curious because when Slip of the Tongue came out, you were involved creatively, but then you had some sort of wrist injury that prevented you from going in the studio. But then you jumped back on stage and you went on tour. So, take us through that. What actually happened? What's the true story behind all of that?
It was really, really frustrating, as anybody can imagine. Nobody knew what it was at the time. In the studio, from one day to another, it suddenly felt like somebody was holding my wrist like this. So I didn't have the flexibility over here, and the pick was kind of flipping out of my fingers all the time. I thought, man, what's going on? So everybody was waiting in the studio which at the time was a few thousand a day, including people who worked there and including the producer and everything. So I went from one acupuncturist to a physical therapist, and God knows what in LA or in Reno where we were recording at the time. Or no, actually, it wasn't. I think it was in Keith Olsen's studio, I think. Anyway, I called my dad. I said, "Dad, I've got this weird thing," and he called me back the same evening, and he said, "I found a institute in Holland that specialized in musicians' problems, physical problems, because every musician sooner or later gets a physical problem. Like my sister is a classical concert piano player." And she went through like a lower back problem, and violin players, they get neck problems and all that stuff. So I decided, man, the pressure was getting to me, everybody waiting for me for a week, and the costs piling up. And I said, guys, I had to go home. And we talked about getting Steve Vai in, because that was the hot shot at the moment, and he still is, of course. But at the moment, he was just out of Baby Wash. So that was a very good move to finish that album, even though his style is quite different, of course, than the 1987 album and the previous Whitesnake stuff. But I had enough on my plate, mentally and physically. I went back home and got treated for almost a year. So with physical therapy about 3 times a week or something, and other methods with electrodes and shit, and it was quite complicated, but it got me back in shape for the tour. But during the tour, once or twice a week, I went to see a physical therapist to keep the shoulders loose and all that stuff. So I got through the tour pretty good. But it took another, only in 1999, I found out what it actually was. And it appeared that they had developed 2 neck hernias, resulting from a car crash that I had in the early 80s. That slowly but surely built up over the years, and got to the point where they were pressing against a nerve that triggers your index finger and your thumb. So that was the whole thing. And then, of course, as anybody can imagine, it was an extremely frustrating situation that I finally wrote a great album together with David, and I couldn't play in it. So I made peace with it at some point, during the tour actually already, because I got on great with Steve. And then I think we complemented each other very well, because as everybody can see, we have very different styles. So it worked out great. And I thought, well, if somebody else is supposed to play my music, I'd rather have it be Steve Vai than CC DeVille or going for, So it was an honor in that respect too, It's that's how I made peace with myself about the whole thing. It was quite curious.
Yep. So this is great stuff, Adrian. Great back history stuff. I want to get into your plans for this summer in the U.S., but I have a little personal story I want to share with you first. One of the first times I was able to get over to Europe to see a typical European rock festival is I went to the Arrow Rock Festival in Holland. 2008, and you jumped up on stage with Whitesnake for Here I Go Again. Yeah. And it's funny, I actually have a picture with you backstage after the show, and you had shorter hair, and I remember you telling me all about that you were just starting to get back into music, and you were a painter, and that was kind of what you were doing. So when I see you in New Jersey in a few weeks for the show, I'm going to bring that photo, and we just a little bit about it.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, that was an interesting thing. I got originally I'm an artist. I went to art college in Holland, especially because my dad kind of motivated to do so. He said, I know you want to play rock music professionally, and I know you don't want to make any concessions. Like play popular music to make a living or something. He said, so I really want you to go either to the conservatory of guitar. I can't read a note, so I thought, oh man, what am I going to do there? Or go to art college and get like a degree to be able to be allowed to teach, which I actually did for about a year, and teach art. So it never stopped to my eternal happiness, but it was very instrumental in making choices because I had no illusion that in Holland I would be able to make a living in rock music, because there's a lot of rock fans in Holland, but there's very little attention on radio stations, the big radio stations, TV, forget it, So I was realistic with that, and I thought the only music I want to play is rock music. Otherwise, I don't get the satisfaction out of it. So fortunately, I finished the studies, and when you were at Arrow, to get back to the question, my little daughter was there. At the time she was little, and right now she's 28. She was like this cutie 6-year-old, and the main reason why I stayed out of music for quite a while, also to catch up with my painting, but also the relationship with her mother at the time, we split up when my daughter was 3. So, and I did not want to be one of those dads who sticks his head around the corner twice a year and goes, "I'm your back, sorry, but I have to go on tour again." So I thought I'm going to wait until I can explain it to her. And the Aero Festival was actually the first time when she saw me play. And of course, she thought, man, what a chaos, She never saw so many people get little earphones on to protect her hearing. And then I stumbled into the photo I took at the time of her and Tommy Aldridge.
Okay.
When we played there, and she was a cute little thing now. But then, when she was about 11 or 12, that's when I started Vandenberg's Moon Kings, because then I could explain to her, this is what I used to do, this is what I love to do most. And I also want to give her the example of going for stuff that you love to do most. No matter how it goes, you can always make a living one way or another, if you do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a good memory, and we'll talk more about that at the Jersey show. But Adrian, you brought the My Whitesnake tour to the U.S. last year, and I had the opportunity to catch you at the Vogel in Red Bank, New Jersey. It was an awesome time. So what made you decide to come back yet again a year later to bring this back to the States?
Yeah, it's a question of demand, because last year it was basically meant as a celebration of 35 years ago that we headlined the Donington Festival in England. Mm-hmm. So that was the theme for last year. And but so many people from different countries, they go, "Oh, are you going to come over, do it here?" So we're still going to Spain and to Scandinavia and to Japan and God knows what, because a lot of people got a little bit jealous that they didn't get to see that show. Okay. And I want to make everybody happy, including ourselves. And it's a lot of fun to do. And you saw the show, we got a killer band with a killer vocalist who does total justice to David's vocals. Songs like Still of the Night are not the easiest one to sing, as you can tell. So we decided to do it again, because there's only 2 or 3 venues where we played 2 years ago, I think. Or maybe last year, I don't know. But it's just it's a lot of fun to do, and next year is going to be entirely different here, because next year it's 50 years ago that I put my first rock band together, a band called Peter, like 90% based on my favorite bands at the time, Bad Company and Free. And I found a singer who didn't just sound a little bit like Paul Rogers, but he also looked like him. So when we played Germany, we often got mistaken by with that company, because they thought, well, maybe it's that company doing like a test show or something, like a tryout or something. Mm-hmm. So we got signed right away, but that was in 77. So next year is 50 years ago, and my management came at the idea, you know what? Let's make a big celebration out of it, and I'm writing on an album that encompasses 3 songs of early Vandenberg in the style of, new songs, and a couple of songs from the Manic Egan period, a couple of songs from the Moon King period, and a couple of songs from the Whitesnake period, of course. In those styles, but new songs. So that's quite a project, and it's going to be very unusual, but it's a big celebration. We're going to do a big show in Holland where I'm bringing over some very special guests.
Oh, wow.
And we might take it to the States also if people are curious about it. And we're going to do some European and Japanese shows in that with a theme. So that's the future. But right now, of course, as I mentioned before, I'm really excited about doing the States again, because the first U.S. tour that I did after all those years, it's 3 years ago. And that whole period, I mean, I had some of the best years of my life, as you can imagine. I really miss doing the States because the vibe with the crowd is really special to me, and I spent all the great times. I walked through all those towns and cities, and in the early morning, going for coffee somewhere, it's just really, really great. And I got a kick out of it, I got a kick out of it staying in a hotel or in a tour bus. We're actually going to stay in the tour bus this time.
Okay.
Which is the way to go, because it's just great with a bunch of guys in a tour bus having fun after the show and before the show and discuss the shows, all the stuff. We're sharing the tour bus with Michael Mendoza and Vinnie Moore's band. So it's going to be 10, 12 guys in the bus having a great time on stage and off stage. So it's going to be great.
Adrian, I want to ask you quickly because, again, Mats Levine, who in America especially known for probably his time as the singer during one of the Yngwie Malmsteen periods, but what makes him the right singer for those classic songs? Then talk a little bit about Vinnie Moore and Marco Mendoza. I mean, those guys are great musicians with such a big back history. So tell us a little bit about that collaboration and what we can expect on this tour along with the Whitesnake set.
Well, it's an interesting concept that our mutual agency came up with, because they also are the agency here for Marco and Vinnie, and rightfully, as you said, they got some great stuff from the past, and they're gonna do a set with some stuff from UFO, Thin Lizzy, maybe Journey. I don't know, because Marco played at a short stint with Journey. Probably some of their own stuff, I suppose. And then we are on with the My Whitesnake Years set. So it's going to be definitely, I don't want to use the word nostalgic, but everybody's going to feel like they're in the 80s again, which is a great feeling, as we all know. So all of us are really excited about it. We go, man, we're going to do this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it looks like we might take it to the West Coast next year in May. So the agency's working on it, and it's going to be a great package, and a lot of fun because they're all great guys. So no egos, everybody left their egos behind in the 80s, pretty much.
Yeah, certainly. So Adrian, it's great. I know you're going to be circling the East Coast in August. In a few weeks, again, you'll be hitting the New Jersey and New York City markets over by me. I'll definitely make sure I say hi to you in New Jersey, but I wish you the best of luck on this tour.
Thanks for having me, and see you down the road.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.